Let's start with a simple truth. Things are deeply, profoundly unfair. You know it, I know it, your dog wearing a little sweater knows it. And the numbers back it up. Back in 2017, Oxfam reported that a mere 8 billionaires possess the same amount of wealth as half the entire planet's population. Half! That's like saying 8 people have the same amount of loose change as 3.5 billion others. It's frankly obscene, and it's not getting any better. Credit Suisse estimated in 2016 that the wealthiest 10% control a whopping 89% of global assets. That's right, almost 90% of everything is in the hands of a tiny fraction of the population. This isn't just a gap, it's a chasm, a gaping maw of economic injustice that swallows up opportunity and spits out despair. This level of inequality isn't an accident, it's a feature, a direct result of policies designed to funnel wealth upwards. And no one embodies this more than the orange elephant in the room, the man who mistook the presidency for a badly run reality show, Donald J. Trump. Now, some people might say, hold on, John, Trump's gone, it's 2025, remember? And to them I say, did you hit your head on something? Because the damage he inflicted, the systems he exploited, they're still very much with us. So buckle up, because we're going on a little journey, a deep dive into the murky waters of wealth inequality, corporate greed, and the rise of a very particular brand of American huckster. Let's talk about brands, baby. No, not the kind that leaves a nasty mark when you burn your hand on a hot stove. I'm talking about the insidious, all-pervasive power of corporate branding. And for that, we need to crack open a copy of Naomi Klein's No Logo, a book that should be mandatory reading for every sentient being on the planet. Klein brilliantly exposes how corporations, much like toddlers on a sugar rush, are obsessed with image over substance. They've realized that it's far more profitable to sell you an idea, a lifestyle, an aspiration, than it is to actually, make things. Manufacturing is so last century, darling. This is the age of the brand. Think about it. Nike doesn't just sell shoes, they sell athletic prowess, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, but mostly the victory part. Apple doesn't peddle electronics, they offer sleek design, effortless cool, a gateway to a world of creativity and innovation. They're selling you a feeling, an identity, a tribe to belong to. And Trump? Well, he's the ultimate brand. He's the embodiment of wealth, success, allegedly, and a very particular brand of aggressive, unapologetic American masculinity. He understood that in the age of social media and shrinking attention spans, image is everything. He's the human equivalent of a shiny new iPhone, all surface and no substance. But boy, did people buy it. Now, let's talk about the shock doctrine, another one of Klein's masterpieces. It's not exactly a light beach read, but trust me, it's worth a look. Klein argues that throughout history, powerful interests have exploited moments of crisis and upheaval to push through unpopular policies. Think of it like this. You punch someone in the face, they're dazed and confused, and while they're still reeling, you shove a contract in front of them and say, sign this. That's essentially what Trump did, only instead of a fist, he used a toxic cocktail of racism, xenophobia, and good old-fashioned fear-mongering. He whipped up a frenzy of anxiety and anger, pointing the finger at immigrants, Muslims, anyone who didn't fit his narrow definition of real Americans. And while the country was busy freaking out, he quietly went about dismantling environmental regulations, gutting social welfare programs, and showering tax cuts on corporations and the ultra-wealthy. Remember when he withdrew the US from the Paris Climate Accord? Or when he separated migrant children from their parents at the border? Or when he basically ignored the COVID-19 pandemic until it was too late? Those weren't just examples of incompetence, folks, although there was plenty of that to go around. They were calculated shocks, designed to distract and disorient while he and his cronies looted the country for everything it was worth. Now, before you get too comfortable pointing fingers at the orange bogeyman, let's not forget those who laid the groundwork for his ascent. Yes, I'm talking about the well-meaning but ultimately ineffective neoliberal policies of the Obama and Clinton years. Look, I like Obama. He seems like a genuinely decent guy who could actually, speak in complete sentences. But his administration missed a golden opportunity to hold Wall Street accountable after the 2008 financial crisis. Instead of breaking up the big banks and rewriting the rules of the game, they slapped them with a few paltry fines and called it a day. And what message did that send to ordinary Americans who had lost their homes, their jobs, their life savings? It said, "We hear you, but we're too busy bailing out the people who caused this mess to actually fix the system." And then there's Hillary. Bless her heart, she tried to warn us. Remember the basket of deplorables? She saw the writing on the wall, the simmering resentment, the economic anxiety that Trump so expertly exploited. But her brand of corporate-friendly, free trade-loving neoliberalism had long since alienated the very working-class voters who felt left behind by globalization and technological change. They were ripe for the picking, and Trump, the master salesman, knew just what to say. Section 5, the rise of the philanthrocapitalist, wealth as virtue, inequality as solution. Here's a fun thought experiment. Imagine a world where the solution to inequality is more inequality. Sounds crazy, right? Well, welcome to the wonderful world of philanthrocapitalism. This is the idea that the best way to solve the world's problems is to unleash the awesome power of billionaires with good intentions. You know the type. They made their fortunes crushing the competition, dodging taxes and exploiting cheap labor. But now they want to give back by, say, building a school in a developing country or funding a malaria research project. Don't get me wrong, these are all noble goals. But there's something deeply unsettling about a system where a handful of unelected individuals hold such disproportionate power to shape the world in their image. And of course, no one embodies this ethos more than Trump himself. He campaigned on the idea that his vast wealth and business acumen uniquely qualified him to fix America's problems. Never mind the fact that he had a long history of bankruptcies, shady business deals, and stiffing contractors. He was rich, therefore he was competent. It was the ultimate triumph of branding over substance. Section 6, a cabinet of titans, corporate interests at the helm. Remember when Trump said he was going to drain the swamp of Washington, D.C.? Good times, good times. Of course, what he actually did was fill it with a whole new breed of swamp creature corporate lobbyists, industry insiders, and billionaires with zero government experience. It was like he raided the boardrooms of every Fortune 500 company and said, "Congratulations, you're all hired." His cabinet was a who's who of oil barons, Wall Street tycoons, and climate change deniers. It was like watching a slow-motion heist of the American government, with corporate interests picking the locks and making off with the loot. Is it any wonder that his policies reflected the priorities of his donors and cronies? Tax cuts for the wealthy? Check. Deregulation of industries that pollute the environment? Check. Attempts to dismantle the Affordable Care Act and strip healthcare from millions? Check. Check, check. It was a masterclass in kleptocracy, cloaked in the language of populism. Section 7, from no to what now, building a movement for radical change. So here we are in the year of our Lord 2025. Trump is gone, but the forces that propelled him to power are still very much alive and well. So what do we do? Well, for starters, we need to move beyond the politics of number. Don't get me wrong, opposition is important, but it's not enough to simply rage against the machine. We need to build a new one. We need a movement that's as diverse and interconnected as the problems we face. We need to build bridges between labor unions and environmental groups, between Black Lives Matter activists and religious leaders, between everyone who believes in a more just and equitable future. And we need to be bold. Incremental change won't cut it. We need to fundamentally rethink our relationship with capitalism, with the environment, with each other. We need to demand a system that works for the many, not the few. A system that values people over profits, compassion over greed, and a livable planet over short-term gains. It's a tall order, but hey, we're Americans. We put a man on the moon. We can do this. Section 8, beyond Trump, the enduring threat of the far right. Now, I know what you're thinking. John, you're harshing my mellow with all this talk of doom and gloom, and you're right, things are looking pretty bleak right now, but here's the thing, despair is a luxury we can't afford. Because even though Trump is out of office, the forces that propelled him to power, the far right, the white nationalists, the conspiracy theorists, haven't gone anywhere. They're still out there, spreading their toxic ideology, infiltrating our institutions and waiting for their next opportunity to seize power. They're like cockroaches, only much harder to kill. We need to be vigilant, we need to call out their bullshit wherever we see it, and we need to support organizations that are fighting back against their hateful agenda. Because the truth is, Trump was just a symptom of a much deeper sickness, rot at the heart of American democracy. And if we don't address the underlying causes of that sickness, we're just going to see more Trumps in the future. Maybe they'll be a different color, maybe they'll have a different hairstyle, but the song will remain the same. Section 9, reclaiming the narrative, the power of independent media and bold action. So what can we do? Well, for starters, we need to reclaim the narrative. We need to stop letting the corporate media dictate the terms of the debate. We need to support independent journalists and media outlets that are willing to speak truth to power and hold the powerful accountable. And most importantly, we need to get involved. We need to vote like our lives depend on it, because they do. We need to organize, we need to protest, we need to make our voices heard. We need to be the change we want to see in the world, because nobody is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. So let's get to work. The future of our democracy, our planet, and quite possibly our sanity depends on it.